Welcome to New York's number 2 sports show. The Yankees win game 1 of the ALCS against the Guardians by a score of 5-2, and Carlos Rodón responds. Big time bounce back performance from Carlos Rodón. Pitched an absolute gem. Went 6 innings, allowed just 1 run. It was a solo homer that he allowed, and Rodón, if nothing else, that is what he'll do. But that was the one blemish. Only allows 3 hits, no walks, and 9 strikeouts. So in both postseason games combined, no walks and 16 strikeouts for Rodón. So that was the story in this one. And Yankees hit a couple of homers. Juan Soto off of Alex Cobb, who Soto owns Cobb career wise, and he got the Yankees on the board. And then Stanton with a big insurance run off of the lefty Guardian reliever. So Stanton continues his just postseason mastery. Just been fantastic. And Luke Weaver is yet again a story. A very key 5-out save, records his 4th save of the postseason, and he came into a tough spot with the tying run up, 1st and 3rd, 1 out in the 8th, is able to get out of that, and then strikes out the side in the 9th. So, but it starts with Rodón, and this was a decision to start him in game 1 that I honestly I thought it was questionable, considering the fact that Cleveland is more successful against lefties, and then also you think about the fact that Rodón was not nearly as effective in game 2 against the Royals, plus the fact that Clark Schmidt pitched well. I would have preferred to go Clark Schmidt, and I'll gladly admit that I was wrong in terms of this outing. Rodón really had the Guardians fooled, and I think it was a playoff record, a Yankee postseason record for Carlos Rodón, that he had 25 swings and misses in his 6 innings. It was truly dominant stuff, and he didn't go crazy, like in terms of he wasn't overly emotional, very composed, very chill. And that was the big difference between the Kansas City start and this one. So it's a learning experience, and one that he is able to deliver on. And it was key because, look, the Yankees were able to take advantage of really specifically Joey Cantillo, the lefty that came in. I was kind of surprised by that, to be honest. I kind of thought it would more be Zabrowski, who gave up the home run later to Stanton, but other than that, pitched well. Going to Cantillo, I don't know, Stephen Vogt, it was more of not a throwaway, right? But just you're going deep into the pen. Like Cantillo is kind of a depth starter. And maybe Guardian fans would be more privy to this knowledge. They probably would be. To me, Cantillo almost feels like if it would be like Marcus Stroman coming in that spot, where it's kind of your 5th or 6th starter coming into a situation that I understand it was a lefty versus lefty matchup, but it was a total disaster as Cantillo throws 4 wild pitches, which essentially effectively leads to 3 runs being scored. All the runs were earned, but that was really, really key. Alex Cobb did not pitch very well, and that's not surprising. The weakness with Cleveland, more than anything, is the lack of starting pitching. And the Yankees were ultimately able to take advantage of that when you combine the fact of who Cleveland brought in. So, again, I was surprised by that. I wonder what Cleveland fans think as far as Cantillo being the one that was brought in. I understand maybe if you wanted to have him start the 4th inning, but at the end of that 3rd inning, like in a big spot, like he is mostly, let me see, I think he's more of a starter by trade. Yeah, he is. I mean, this is really someone that has been a starting pitcher by and large. And to bring him into that situation, I just don't think that was the right spot. So that was really big, where the Yankees are able to kind of, in a very ugly way, it was kind of handed to them, but also give the Yankees credit in that the walks keep on coming. 7 walks for the Yankees in this game. Like, that is a key to their success. They're not getting shit done with runners in scoring position. 0 for 7 for the Yankees who runners in scoring position. They're not getting the big hit. They do get a sac fly by Aaron Judge. And of course, you had those 2 solo homers, but yeah, only 6 hits for the Yankees. So the offense really has not gotten going, but yet the wins are happening really because of very good pitching by the Yankees. And the starting rotation for the Yankees, when you look at the postseason field, who is left, even who going into the postseason, it's a strength, especially if Rodón is going to pitch like this. That is huge. So there were a couple of roster moves that were made, and I wish I meant to bring it up on the preview episode. I don't believe I ever really got to it. If I brought it up, it was very brief. There had been no decisions made at that point, but I wanted to kind of make predictions as far as what I felt the roster would look like. So I guess there were two moves made. One of them makes sense based on the fact that Anthony Rizzo was healthy enough to go. And so therefore Rizzo replaced Ben Rice on the roster. So that 1-for-1 makes absolute total sense. And Rizzo started at first base and batted eighth. Now, I'll be honest. I prefer the Oswaldo Cabrera John Birdie combo. And I might be, it feels like I'm someone in that, I'm not alone in it, but it feels like I'm someone in the minority. I respect everything that Anthony Rizzo has done. And actually, he did get a hit and a walk. He actually looked all right at the plate. He really, he was putting up competitive at bats. Part of the concern that I have, and I know it's his calling card. This is one of the best defensive first baseman we've seen in the last 10 years. But he made, and again, I said this beforehand, it went down as a hit, which was kind of fortunate, but a misplay by Rizzo in the eighth inning really almost opened the floodgates for Cleveland that luckily Luke Weaver was able to get out of. But yeah, and then they actually replaced Rizzo for defensive purposes in the ninth inning with Oswaldo Cabrera. So that answered one thing, and that Oswaldo Cabrera is seen, and it makes sense out of all the first baseman options. Cabrera is kind of seen as the one most dependent upon defensively. And the reason that Boone gave as to why they took Rizzo out is that he was spent physically and emotionally. Little bit of an odd answer. I don't know. I gotta think that if Rizzo makes that play in the eighth inning, like he's in there in the ninth, but then it leads to like, well, then why would Rizzo even if you don't trust him defensively, then why would he get the start? I don't know. That is going to be an evolving situation with Rizzo. It sounds as if he's going to be starting game two, and I'm all right with it, but I do have some concern. And to be honest, like I said, I would probably prefer the Cabrera Birdie combination, and hopefully it doesn't come back to bite the Yanks. At minimum, maybe it'll just be a negligible sort of thing where they break even. The other move that was made, and we kind of knew that they would add at least one pitcher to the roster. They do it, and it's Marcus Stroman for Duke Ellis. And I actually felt like Duke Ellis. Let's do that side first. I felt like he is of more value than, let's say, Trent Grisham. Like the way that they're using things, it'd be one thing if they actually use Grisham for defensive purposes. But if you're not going to do that, and they're really not going to do that, other than him just being someone that's been on the team all year, like he is a veteran, like although they had no problem with Stroman not being on the ALDS roster, I'm not going to make a big deal about that, but I do think that Duke Ellis probably would have served a little bit more purpose than Grisham. And this isn't like an anti-Grisham take. It's just the way that they're using things. That was one that to me would have made more sense. I am also glad that Jason Dominguez is still on the roster because I know there was some that maybe thought he would be the one taken off. But as far as the Stroman decision, look, like I don't think he's going to have any real meaningful role. Would I have maybe preferred, let's say, Cody Poteet as an example? Yeah, I probably would have. But again, Marcus Stroman, he'll come in a situation where the score is lopsided to 8 innings. I'd be stunned if he ever came into a game, other than if there's like an unexpected injury that happens right away. If that happens, then that's one thing. But other than that, if health is on the Yankee side, Stroman's not really going to ever be in a situation that truly matters. I guess extra innings if the bullpen was completely taxed, but even then I think it's avoidable. So Stroman is on the LCS roster. And then just of note, Nestor Cortez, it does seem as if the Yankees make the World Series, it seems as if Cortez will be back for that. And I think that at least having him as an option, whether that be in the rotation as the fourth starter or out of the bullpen as a lefty option, I do think that could be of use. So encouraging on that front. I never felt like the LCS was really all that realistic for Nestor, but if they make it to the World Series, it will be, seemingly. So now let's go through the Yankee lineup and just to give kind of thoughts and opinions on that. And please like and subscribe would be greatly appreciated for the channel. So Gleyber Torres would lead off. And, again, for Gleyber, I think that the at-bats have continued to be good. He was 0 for 2 with runners in scoring position, but, gets a leadoff hit, and that's been a calling card for him. He had a walk as well. So for Gleyber, when you look at the lineup, he is certainly well within the top half, if not more, of like, okay, if you wanted someone up there and felt good about it, Gleyber is that person. So for him, again, it continues to be really big that he has been very, very solid up top in the Yankee order. Juan Soto, a really good game for him. And like I said, great numbers against Alex Cobb. It's been a very, with this game, like his postseason numbers are really good. And you wouldn't expect anything else. Juan Soto is money. And no pun intended there, or maybe pun intended, as it came out of my mouth. But, honestly, Soto is just, he has such a good idea of the strike zone. Like, in his worst, he'll be able to draw a walk or two. But for him, it was nice to see him hit his first Yankee postseason home run, and hopefully not his last. Was honestly great to see, and it got the Yankees on the board. Aaron Judge, look, it's still not quite there. He gets a sac fly. He does draw a walk. He did get, here's the thing. The most interesting at bat to me was the first inning at bat which he struck out, but he did get kind of screwed by home plate umpire Mike Estabrook, where, I mean, Cleveland was definitely getting a lot of calls that should have been balls were called strikes. That was a bit of a theme, but especially there. That was the worst one of all, and a late call too. So I'm not going to go crazy on that. He still did strike out, right? Like, so it's a little bit of that blame goes both ways, but it was unfortunate there. And I will say the Judge, he's looking more and more comfortable, but of course we're still looking for more from Judge. Austin Wells, not been good. Not been good for Wells, but here's the thing. I don't think they're going to make really any changes to the lineup, and really nor would I. The one thing that I would be interested in is versus lefty. I could see them going Stanton for Wells 5, but against righties, I think they stick with it, and I think that you do that. I just do. Versus lefty, could they maybe go Trevino for Wells? I think it'd be unlikely. We can't rule it out, but I wouldn't think it is. But for Wells, it's been a struggle. There were some good moments in Game 1 against Kansas City. Since then, it's been bad. Giancarlo Stanton does it again. A monster home run with a walk to boot. Like, he has been, as good as Soto's been, Stanton's been better, if you could believe it. So Giancarlo continues to kind of lead the way. And in a time where Judge isn't really doing what he does, Stanton is that top dog. And it's just remarkable to see what he's done in the postseason. Jazz Chisholm Jr., not good. Not good. I think just trying to do too much. It has Nick Swisher feels to it. And I know it's not an exact replica. And it's not like their skill sets are different. But again, just in the way of, I think, just trying to do too much. So for Jazz, luckily, like, defensively, there were no hiccups, but yeah, like, the offense hasn't been good. Anthony Volpe, a quiet night for him, but, again, like, what was a pretty solid Kansas City series, so, not really going to make much of that, but yeah, Volpe, quiet night. Rizzo, we discussed, I would say surprisingly decent at the plate, but made that gaffe at first. And then Verdugo, look, like, with Verdugo, he did get a hit, to be fair. He also did get a walk, right? So, but there were a couple of big strikeouts as well. Or maybe not a couple. One. When the Yankees were up 3-0, and it was second and third, 2 out against Cantillo, he struck out. So, but here's the thing. If Verdugo's going to provide you quality defense, he's really not going to leave the lineup because they don't trust Dominguez. So Verdugo really isn't even that much risk at this point. He truly isn't. And so as much as I don't feel great about him at the plate, if he's going to do what he has to do defensively, then they're just going to roll with that. So again, let's discuss the game. Rodon, I gave you his line. For Alex Cobb, who gets the loss, 2 2/3 innings, 5 hits, 3 runs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. That's tough. When Alex Cobb is basically, I kind of view him, he's like kind of the Guardians' number 3 starter. That's rough for someone who is up there in age, a bit injury prone, just that isn't ideal. But the Yankees have an early opportunity, and I should add that Lane Thomas does strike out with David Fry on second. It's an Austin Wells pass ball in the middle of the at bat to Lane Thomas, but Rodon strikes him out for his first strikeout of the night. So that was a big batter there to kind of get Rodon going. And then in the first inning, it's that Gleyber Soto combo. This felt a lot like game 1 and 2 against the Royals, where Gleyber and Soto both get on for Judge, and then Judge strikes out looking. Again, some blame goes to Estabrook, no doubt, but not a good thing for Judge again to not deliver there. Then Wells grounds out to move the runners over to second and third, and then Stanton flies out to Stephen Kwan. So the score remains tied. End of one. Then in the second, you get a little bit of a 2-out rally, singles by Rizzo and Verdugo, but then Gleyber grounds out to end the inning. So runners in scoring position struggles continue for the Yankees. It's been a theme in the postseason. And luckily, so far, it hasn't come back to bite them. So, in the third, though, is where the Yankees take the lead and keep it. Juan Soto with his first homer of the postseason, first Yankee playoff homer. And he has such good numbers against Alex Cobb. It makes it 1-0 Yankees. Then Judge walks. Then after a Wells strikeout, Stanton walks. Then after a Chisholm Jr. flyout, Volpe walks. So then they bring on Joey Cantillo, the lefty, and that is where, with Anthony Rizzo up, it is a wild pitch that scores Aaron Judge and moves the runners over to second and third. Then, was it during the Verdugo at bat? Was it? Yes, it had to have been. During the Verdugo at bat, it would be another wild pitch by Cantillo where Giancarlo Stanton scores, runners move over up as well the second and third. So that makes it 3-0. That right there, that sequence right there is kind of the difference in the game. You can't have that. And part of it too is Bo Naylor is not a great defensive catcher. And if he's not going to do much offensively, which he has not, it does make you wonder if Austin Hedges maybe is the better move for Cleveland. Obviously, the Guardians, they need, more offensive production in some ways, but if Bo Naylor, and look, some of them were tough, to be fair to him, like these were truly wild pitches for the most part. So it makes it 3-0 Yankees, and then Verdugo strikes out. So not a great at bat there. But you go to the bottom of the fourth, and the wild pitches continue. A Gleyber leadoff walk, and then a couple of wild pitches, a Soto walk, and they bring on the righty Pedro Avila, who was added to the roster. I don't believe he was on the ALDS roster versus the Tigers for Cleveland. And Avila does give up a sac fly to Judge on a 3-0 count. Gets Gleyber Torres in, gives the Yankees a 4-0 lead. So again, those wild pitches, to me, basically caused that run to score. So we go to the top of the sixth, and that's where Rodon makes that one mistake. He's, like I said, he's always good for giving up a homer, typically of the solo variety, and it's Rocchio hitting his first homer. Been really impressed by him. He had a very solid DS versus the Tigers. I mean, more than solid. I mean, and tonight, no difference. Like, he is someone that, batting ninth, that's providing a lot of production. And that makes it 4-1. And the last batter that Rodon would face, Jose Ramirez, gets into one. The wind was definitely a factor in this one, more so in right field, pushing balls in, whereas in left, it was, a little more friendly for hitters. But Ramirez lines out to Judge. Judge tracks it down. So Rodon, a great 6 innings of work, and the Yankees needed it. So we go to the seventh. Clay Holmes comes on, and Holmes continues to do the job. He would allow it was a 1-2-3 inning for Clay Holmes. What am I saying? Manzardo would pinch hit for Noel and strike out to end the inning. So, yeah, Clay Holmes he has been so good in that sort of seventh, wherever you want to call it, that 6th, 7th, 8th inning type role before Weaver comes in. Like, he is one of the trusted relievers. And I really do think very highly of him for that, because after things failed as a closer, it could have completely went south. And instead, he has just not let that phase him and has really been good. Bottom of the seventh, the Yankees add a very key run off of the lefty Zabrowski. And that's kind of the key as far as the way the lineup is structured. It's leading to Stanton facing lefties, and he's taking advantage of it. He crushes a home run, his second homer of the postseason to give the Yankees a 5-1 lead, which was important. Tim Hill comes on in the eighth, and here's the thing. Why was Tommy Kahnle not brought in? And I don't think they ever asked it in the postgame to Boone. Like, a little bit odd in a 4-run game. You had just used Clay Holmes. I like Tim Hill, but that felt like it was Tommy Kahnle's lane, but it didn't happen. Could Kahnle be dealing something we don't know about? I guess we'll find out. But nothing came out about that. With one out, lefty Andres Jimenez single. And here is now the play where things get interesting. Rocchio hits a ball in the direction of Rizzo, and it goes off of Rizzo's glove and into the outfield. But also what happens is Tim Hill interferes with Brian Rocchio, which was the correct call. Hill was trying to, if Rizzo fields it correctly, Hill was trying to go towards first in what could eventually be a play that, he would need to make the play at first base. So Rocchio, there's interference there, but they award Rocchio second base. That to me was a little bit curious because, the way the play was happening, even if Hill was ever there, I don't think Rocchio would have made it to second, but they do give him that. They do rule. They award Rocchio second base. So it's second and third, one out on a situation. Again, that's a play that Rizzo's got to make. They rule it a single, but I think that should have been an error. And then Stephen Kwan gets an RBI single off of Hill. So Hill's night is done. Not a great outing from Tim Hill. He wasn't hit hard. His defense kind of, failed him a bit. But again, Kahnle was probably the move there, and they didn't do it. So Luke Weaver comes on. And the Guardians would pinch hit Will Brennan for David Fry, which ends up not working out as Weaver strikes Brennan out. That was big. And then he gets Jose Ramirez to ground out. Think about it. Jose Ramirez is the tying run. One short porch 3-run homer away from tying this game up, but Weaver gets the soft contact there. And then we go to the ninth inning, and Weaver's command was just a little bit off. A little bit off in this one. A leadoff, and so as Waldo Cabrera comes in for Anthony Rizzo at first base, I found that interesting. Weaver walks Lane Thomas, but then he strikes out Josh Naylor, strikes out Daniel Schneemann, who actually Weaver fell behind in the count 3-0 to him, so that was impressive to come back from that. And then he finishes it off by striking out Austin Hedges. 4 strikeouts for Weaver, just sick. What he's been doing, he has been the best reliever in the postseason. That's just what it is. We can take it a step further if we want, but he's the closer and he's been great at doing it. And he's getting you most of the time more than 3 outs. He's coming into the 8th inning. And I wish that he didn't pitch tonight. That's the thing too. It's as great as it was to see, that could hurt down the road because this was a game the Yankees really could have blown open, but didn't really ever get the big hit. Just didn't happen. But hey, still a lot to like, especially Rodón, Holmes, Weaver, Soto, Stanton. So Yankees take game 1 from the Guardians by a score of 5-2. So game 2, which I will, luckily enough, I'll be attending game 2. Looking forward to that. So last round, I saw Cole against Kansas City. He didn't pitch so well, but that was actually a very, interesting back and forth game. The Yankees won. This one is a different situation. It's game 2. And Tanner Bybee will be on the mound for Cleveland. He is their number 1 starter. And, kind of by far, considering the state of, the Guardians rotation, Bybee started game 1 and 4 of the LDS versus the Tigers. Didn't really provide a whole lot of length. I think the furthest he went was 4 2/3, and that could be the case again, especially with the Yankees' propensity for drawing walks. But Bybee did pretty well in game 1, home against Detroit. Not as well in game 4. He wasn't bad, but not as well in game 4 at Comerica Park. But yeah, this is a really big game, because things feel good from a Yankee perspective, especially with Cole now in game 2. But if Cleveland can find a way, and hey, that's been a theme in this postseason since the division series, is the team that lost game 1 winning game 2. And, Cleveland is very pesky, and they were able to at least get to the bigger members of the Yankee bullpen, and maybe that serves them well. They didn't really use many at all of their high leverage relievers, so they're all fresh and ready to go. The Cade Smiths, the Tim Herrins, the Hunter Gattises, the Emmanuel Clases, they're all ready to go, and there's a good chance you'll see them even if they're losing. So the key is for Cole to deliver as he did in game 4 against Kansas City and not like what he did in game 1 against the Royals. So It's a pretty pivotal game, one in which if the Yankees win, they're in pretty, I mean, far from over at that point with not even having gone to Cleveland yet, but being up 2-0 would be pretty big. On the flip side, yeah, I mean, if Cleveland can get that win, I mean, the goal for the Guardians is to get the split at Yankee Stadium. So it's not as if that goal, like, we don't know what that goal, if it's achieved successfully or not yet. So we'll learn a lot more after game 2. Excited to be there. And yeah, I mean, game 1, Yankees, they take it. Carlos Rodón with an excellent performance, and Garrett Cole will look to follow that up in game 2 after a 5-2 Yankee victory.